Remember, everybody, patrons got to see previews of this figure as I worked on it. If you want to join in on them, you gotta donate as little as $1 to my Patreon. Link is in the description below. Hello everyone, this is July 31st, the last day of July, and the last custom figure of July. It is a commission for someone on my Gmail account that I know only as Nestor. His figure is Ganon. Now, Ganon has had many faces over the years, looking for anything from a gigantic pig to well, a big blue pig man. There's always a definite pig theme going on. Kind of like an anime version of an orc. Monster Musume comes to mind when I think about it. But specifically, this version of Ganon that I'm making is based on his appearance from Oracles of Seasons and Ages, which is kind of similar to how he looked in the NES and SNES games, as well as Four Sword. Basically, he's going to be a big blue pig man with a red cape. So the base figure was a Warcraft Durotan figure. It's funny that I mentioned that he looks like an anime version of an orc because I actually used an orc figure to make him. Now, unlike Reinhardt, the orc figure Durotan can't be dismantled, so I had to build the whole figure in one piece, which is kind of annoying, and it made the project take a lot longer than it really should have. But let's get into the building process. Similar to what I did when I made Ganondorf, the first step was to take the actual figure's head and cover it with a base layer of clay, well, in this case, epoxy, and then put on what basically amounts to a frowny face, which would give me locations of where I would actually put the details once this hardened. And of course, here are those details. Big, puffy cheeks, a severe underbite, with a couple of orc fangs, which are actually made from some of the spikes that I cut off the figure earlier. I guess you call them tusks, not fangs, because fangs are like canines, and these are like lower canines. Whatever. So yeah, I sculpted up to make the big pig face looking thing, and then I gave him his little bat-winged skull necklace. Again, this all has to be done in one piece. I would complain about sacrificing neck articulation, but Durotan never had neck articulation. Trust me, I checked. That head was definitely glued in place. For the boots, I cut into the toes of them to make that cloven hoof look that this version of Ganondorf has. Ganondorf has been depicted as having clawed toes rather than hooves, but since this is based more or less off the Oracle's version, yeah, we're going with the hooves. Now, I couldn't really do too much modifications to the legs because they're kind of big and bulky, but you'll see how things worked out. At first, I thought I could salvage that cow skull thing for the motif of the belly armor, but it was just in the wrong place. I ultimately ended up having to remove it. So after sculpting in the tail and stuff, he basically has all of his hip skirts and his big round belly armor, and you know, those big spiky hair points on his arms. I'm sorry, I literally just woke up like 10 minutes ago, so I'm a little bit out of sorts recording this. Here's the figure with his paint job, although we're not done yet. Like I said, Durotan's legs didn't look exactly like the digitigrade legs that this version of Ganon usually is depicted with, so I improvised a little bit. I kept most of the furry fluff because, you know, Ganon is supposed to have fur on his legs, so there's that at least. But I covered up some of the armor bits by giving him knee pads, which would ultimately match the shoulder pads, as well as some wrappings around his calves, which I decorated with the Gerudo stylings. You know, those blue and red rectangles, something that you see on the Ganondorf figure. I figure, like, after he's turned into Ganon, he still has some of those left wrapped around his legs that he never bothered to remove. I thought it was a nice little throwback to how he'd look. Ganon needed his weapon, but Durotan's hand was really sculpted to only hold one thing, this battle axe he came with. So I'd have to modify this into the trident. What I did was I cut off the little thingy at the base of the hilt and the axe head itself, and replaced them with a trident head that I cut out of of foam board, and the shaft, which I made out of an old broken paintbrush. At the end of the shaft, I sculpted on this little head. It's supposed to be a skull with long fangs, although it looks a little bit like a Cthulhu head if you don't really think about it too much. I painted it up to be silver. I kind of figured that it's like a metal casting of a skull and not an actual skull. I kind of hope that nothing has a skull like that in the Zelda world, because that's a really creepy skull. But yeah, with the weapon done, I was finally able to just complete the Ganon figure. He has a cape made out of the sleeve of a red t-shirt, and some shoulder pads, which are attached to his shoulders by wires so that they can move around a little bit. This prevents them from limiting the arm articulation. How I would attach the shoulder armor was a real big point that I just couldn't figure out what I was going to do for a while, but I figured it out eventually. And yeah, the spikes on it are once again taken off the Durotan figure. They used to be on his knees. And that is the completed Ganon figure. He can hold the trident by the handle and look like he's wielding it. And he has a tail hidden underneath his cape. And he can fight with Link. And, it's all Ganon-y and it's Ganon. And we all love Ganon. I wonder which is a better like villain, Ganon or Ganondorf? Because I know you can banter with Ganondorf as a man, but Ganon's just a big monster. Oh well, this is me signing off.